Welcome to the Hockey Writers Blackhawks Banter, a weekly show with our top Chicago Blackhawks writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from Chelsea Dagger to the Madhouse on Madison, our team covers everything that happens with the Hawks. So get comfortable, grab a beverage. It's time for some Blackhawks Banter. Blackhawks Banter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Blackhawks Banter presented by the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Greg Boyce, and as always, I'm joined by my fellow Blackhawk cohorts over at the Hockey Writers, Gail Kautchuk, Sean Filippelli, Brooke Laforno. Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode.
Hello.
Hello.
And this is episode number 60 of Blackhawks Banter. So we'll give this one to Colin Delia, but a special shout out to Jimmy Waite, our goaltending coach. He wore number 60 for a couple of games a long time ago in a decade called the 90s. So there we go. It's a goalie episode, so this will make Sean happy. We've got all goalie representation today.
I can sign off right now, and I'm good.
All right. Oh, we can't do that. We got plenty to talk about. Blackhawks had an eventful week. Excuse me. They took home 3 of 6 points. They took the Avalanche to overtime, made a comeback. That was unexpected. Speaking of unexpected, they lost to the lowly Arizona Coyotes, which not good for business, but then bounced back and beat the Vegas Golden Knights because hockey is dumb and those things happen. You lose to the worst team in the league and then you beat a contender the next night. Of course, that was Marc-Andre Fleury's return to Vegas, an emotional night. We'll have more on him as the show goes on. And they also traded Brooks' favorite player, Alex Nylander, was traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins for a guy named Sam Lafferty, who immediately showed up to the Blackhawks and had COVID. So good trade. But we'll see how that works out. They traded Alex Nylander for, a fourth line grinder guy that likes to hit. It's a good thing. We don't need any of those right now. So we're going to start our show off with looking back at the week that happened. And we got some things you guys want to get off your chest here. Gail, we're going to start with you, and you wanted to talk about the Blackhawks finding motivation to win, which they did in their last game, but I'm guessing you're going to say it kind of lacks on other games. What are your thoughts on that, Gail?
Yeah, you segued into it really well with your introduction. It was just like night and day, the team that showed up to play the Avalanche and, the legitimate Stanley Cup contender, and then the Golden Knights. And of course, they were probably pretty motivated by Fleury being back, and that helped them out with that. But then against one of the worst teams in the league, the Coyotes, they just took them for granted that they were going to win, and it showed in a half-hearted effort. And I guess my point here is that it's easier to get motivated and compete against good teams, but sometimes it's harder to find that inner drive against, the mediocre or the bad teams. And as a player, I'm also sure that it's hard to find that motivation consistently on a consistent basis, especially because A, your team's not very good, and B, your franchise doesn't have a whole lot of direction. So I could see where that crappy loss kind of prompted a closed door meeting, players only meeting, and Jonathan Toews referenced it afterwards. I do talk a little bit more in depth about this in my recent Blackhawks Bites column, but one of the main things that Toews said was, we have to find ways to keep each other engaged on the bench and find ways to find the right thing and play with energy, especially with teams that are coming back with us. So I guess my point here is that the players, the coaches, everybody has to just figure out what makes them hungry. What can they do to get that inner drive and that inner motivation? Like, for example, I talked about last week, let's go on a winning streak. Hey, they just won one. This next one should be, let's go for 2 in a row, and then, there might be some other things, maybe, okay, let's get a goal for Kaner. He hasn't had a goal since, I want to say November 17th, I think, or no, that was December 4th is my date there. Or maybe the young goalies, if Soderblom gets another game, or I know Lincoln is off COVID protocol as of today. If they come back, okay, let's win one for them. Just something, they got to find that inner drive. And if they can do that, then maybe, they're not always going to win, but at least they're going to come to compete every night, and that should be a little bit more fun to watch them.
For sure. Yeah. You got to find reasons to win, even if this team doesn't look like they're going to be competing for a playoff spot. There's plenty of reasons to go out there and try to win. And that kind of segues a little bit into our next topic, which Sean wanted to cover. And then you wanted to talk about how Blackhawk fans need to kind of shift their expectations for the rest of the season. I know there were high expectations heading into the year, and we all know how that's gone. So, Sean, what should we expect as fans going forward?
You know, I don't want to sound like a defeatist, so I'll put that out there before I even continue here. But we all on this panel, I think, had a little bit of a foreshadow for what could come of this season. And I think we're unfortunately seeing that plan unfold and come to fruition in the worst ways, in that we all sort of had our own skepticisms around what these additions and what the restructured roster was going to actually look like when it hit the ice. And that's kind of what we're seeing. It's a jumbled, a mixed bag of results. They're still not finding consistency. There's still no sustainability to the success that they are achieving when they're achieving it. It's a mess, to say it simply. But yeah, great segue, because to Gail's point, it doesn't mean that we have to be down on the entire season. I still want them to find motivation. I still want them to be out there wanting to win, wanting to develop, wanting to succeed. Of course, as fans, that's what we need. We need that to be engaged. So I certainly still expect that this team needs to come out to compete. But I think as a fan base, we need to take a step back and realize, hey, this quick fix wasn't an effective one. What they tried to accomplish in the summer has clearly failed. They're not going to accomplish what it would have looked like on paper that they could have. And we all need to accept that now, so that the rest of the way we can enjoy when they come out and have games like they did against Vegas, and not get too down on ourselves when they have a game like they did against the Flames, for example. We just need to accept reality. This team is still a work in progress. As long as they're working through that development, that's what we should be happy with. So let's see some success along the way. Let's enjoy while we can, but let's temper our expectations and realize that this team's not going anywhere this year.
Fair.
Yeah, that is very good advice for sure.
That was a good Oscar speech.
We are going to go from our expectations and how they should be tempered. And Brooke, you wanted to talk about something that you've noticed that has improved since our last get together, and that's the play of the bottom six. What have you seen there?
Yes. And okay, so I'm going to say they're still not perfect, and the bottom six still needs Jesus in a lot of ways. So this is nowhere near perfect, but I did like their game against Vegas. I was kind of looking back at the lines, and I do like Entwistle and Kurashev together. They seem to have some type of chemistry, and I think they actually provide a lot of chances. Entwistle seems to provide a lot of chances, and Borgstrom or Kara and Carpenter did so well together, especially against Vegas. Really, really loved that. And I think we talked about again, Kubalik is not a third line player. On the bottom six, I think he did pretty well again too. So I actually, like I said, they're not perfect. It still needs a major overhaul, but they held very strong. I think they generated a lot of chances. They did good defensively too. That's all we've been asking for from the bottom six, is some type of solid game altogether, because it was just a mess. So I'm proud of them for coming out and actually having a good game against Vegas, because that is a tough roster to stop in any capacity. So you know what? I'm proud of them for holding their own.
For sure. And I briefly wanted to just mention something that happened in that Vegas game as well. No penalties taken in that game. That is a rarity, and it was, the Hawks penalty kill we've talked about the last couple of weeks. It's struggling. It's 26th in the league right now, under 80%, not very good on the PK. Yes, Vegas is a team that's kind of middle of the pack on the power play, but they got a ton of weapons, and you never want to be shorthanded, especially on the road. So that was a big reason they were able to win that game, is not giving them any power play opportunities. So I just wanted to give them a little recognition for a job well done there. So that will wrap up the week that was topic, and we'll move along to what we discussed in our Blackhawks Banter preview post that you could check out over on the hockeywriters.com. Every week we kind of discuss one topic in written form and give you a little sneak peek of what we got in store for you. And it was Sean's turn to pick our topic for this one, and you wanted to focus on everybody's favorite topic, and that's trade rumors. Not necessarily rumors, but 4 guys that are most likely going to be traded, or at least should be traded before That trade deadline in March. I can never remember the date. It's later than usual. I want to say it's March 21st. 21st, 23rd, somewhere along there. It's later than usual since the season started late. But anywho, Hawks got some guys they can trade. Let's talk about 4 of them. Sean, since this was your topic, we're going to start with you. And you've got Marc-Andre Fleury. Why? And should they be looking to trade him?
Well, as a fan first, I'll say that I obviously don't like broaching this topic because Fleury has been one of my favorite goalies through this generation of the game. So I'll stand by that. But now, speaking more analytically and looking more at the business side of the game, it has to be said that even when they acquired Fleury, there was a risk that taking him on for this last year of this current term that he's riding out at a $7 million cap hit, although Chicago got him essentially for nothing when it all unfolded, the reality was if there was nothing happening in Chicago and no reason to keep him around for the long haul throughout this particular season in and of itself, why not get more value out of him while you can? They're approaching that point, if not already being right there. Fleury has bounced back from a really shaky start, one of his worst in his career, and he's playing quite well, despite the Hawks still, again, we've touched on this, failing to find sustained success. Fleury's actually playing at about a 500 level. His numbers have vastly improved. He's saving more than he's letting in. He's playing much better. He's playing up to par with what should have been expected of him, and he's doing his part. The rest of the team isn't. So while there's still an opportunity to salvage some of that value out of him, why not take a look at what the rest of the league would be willing to pay for that? Goalies are hard to come by. Good goalies are hard to come by, and proven ones are even harder to come by. Fleury has all of those checkmarked. Why not take a look and see who might be in need, what they're willing to pay, and just unload him. Let him go somewhere where he can maybe find some winning by the end of the season, make another team happy along the way, add some prospects or picks so that they can actually do this rebuild properly and move on with things. Again, it'll be sad to see as a fan, but it's just what needs to happen for this team to get better.
Yes, Blackhawks are in dire need to get assets. They don't have, unless they get one of the top 2 picks, they don't have a first round pick this year. So I think Marc-Andre Fleury might be your best shot of actually getting back in that first round, depending on what can happen. 2 teams that pop into my head right away that could be good landing spots for him. The Edmonton Oilers need a goalie, and the team we just saw the other night, the Colorado Avalanche, they're struggling in net. They don't have a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury could put that team over the top, and I think they would be more than happy to part with a first round draft pick to win a Stanley Cup. So those are some possible destinations for Fleury. Got to remember, he's still got that no trade clause that he's got to waive too. So it's going to have to make sense for him too, but we'll see how that unfolds. Brooke, you are next on our top trade chips list, and you've got a man we've talked about a lot and trading him since the beginning of the season, since the end of last season, and that's Dylan Strome. What do you think about him as his play seems to be improving a little bit?
So here's the thing. I know that you guys, I'm going to say this, you guys probably were going to pick Alex Nylander as the top trade chip, right? Just to get under my skin. I knew you guys were going to do it. It hurts my heart, but now he's not here to be a trade chip. And that, like I said, hurts my heart because you guys all know he's my everything. But Dylan Strome, you know what? He's talented. He's got skill. You can't deny that, but he's a forward that's replaceable. And I think when you're like in the situation that the Blackhawks are in, you have to look at players that are replaceable. There's a lot of players that are not replaceable, but on the Blackhawks, there's plenty of them that are replaceable. Strome is one of them. Plus, I think I forgot what it was. It was like 10 points in over 20 games. It's just not feasible when you're making over $3 million a year. I think we all know seems like he's had his foot out the door with this team for a long time. Derek King is not always a fan of him. Colleton, for some reason, was not a fan of him either. I don't know what that's about, to be honest, but I think they're just doing him a disservice at this point, just keeping him on when he has really no consistent role. It seems like they never know what to do with him, and he deserves to go somewhere that he'll be successful. And I think the Blackhawks would be wise to not keep delaying that because they're only hurting themselves and him. So you know what? They would be best to just separate for both sides. But like I said, he's talented. He could make any team better, but I think he's replaceable. And I think that's the main thing. He could also garner some value back for the Blackhawks too, which is important.
For sure. Yeah. I think there's a market for him. If he performs better, put him in a position to succeed for a few weeks, and then that trade value might even get a little higher. But I mean, if you watch our show, listen to our show every week, we've talked about this. It seems like forever. At some point, he won't be on the Blackhawks anymore, and then we don't have to talk about him again.
Yes.
Talk about.
Gail, you've got Calvin DeHaan as a guy that a lot of us didn't even think he was going to be here to start the year. A lot of us were like, hey, Seattle, they're going to take him, and then they never did. But he's a really good trade chip. What do you think? What are your thoughts on him moving on?
Yeah, he's been out there for a while as a trade chip, as you just mentioned. I just think it's a no-brainer to shop him. And they would likely get their most value for him, right around the trade deadline here. That's when contending teams are really willing to give up assets to bolster their rosters for a playoff run. And DeHaan would be a perfect depth defenseman for a contending team to add. He's 30-year-old, 10-year veteran, 37 career playoff games under his belt. So he brings experience, he brings maturity to the table. He's not especially known for his offensive play, but he's reliable, consistent, stay-at-home defensive defenseman. He's not flashy, but he's extremely dependable. And he's actually been complimenting Seth Jones a lot on the top pairing with the Blackhawks, but likely he would be more of like a third pairing guy with a more talented team. And he's paid his dues. He's admirably done his job for 3 seasons with the Blackhawks, a team that doesn't look to be going anywhere soon. So why wouldn't DeHaan himself embrace the idea of joining a winning culture and having a chance to hoist the Stanley Cup? On a bigger stage, he actually could showcase his value a little bit more and probably negotiate a better contract for himself in the offseason. And for the Blackhawks, I know that this would be a loss for them because DeHaan, again, like I just said, is reliable, dependable, but they have more depth in their defensive system than they really do in their forward system. So as they embrace more of what we hope is going to be a rebuild here, it just kind of makes sense for a younger player to step up and fill DeHaan's skates. And like I said, they probably will have to retain some of his salary, some of his cap hit, $4.5 million. And they're not going to get a huge return for him, but this is the time to do it. And this is the time to basically invest in the future and focus on anything that the market can bring for him, fix prospects, and see what they can get for him.
Yeah, I think he'll be quite valuable. He's the type of defenseman that teams that are looking to make a deep run will overpay for on the trade deadline day. He's the perfect type of third pairing defender for a cup contender. That veteran leader, warrior, will block shots, sacrifice his body. You need that kind of guy for a deep playoff run. So I think he will be a valuable trade chip before it's all said and done. And then we'll wrap up with me. And of course, I was given the assignment to talk about Erik Gustafsson. I'm starting to see a pattern develop here over the past few weeks. But let's be honest, if we're talking about trade chips, I don't think Erik Gustafsson is a trade chip. There is zero value for this guy. I don't think if you can get a half a roll of stick tape and a used water bottle for him, make that trade, because that's about the best you're going to get for him. This guy is a waste of a roster spot. He's holding back young players. Listen, when the Hawks traded him in 2020 to the Flames, they got a 3rd round draft pick, and that was probably about 6 months too late. They should have traded him the day after that 60-point season ended, because his value was never going to be higher, but they held on to him and they lost some trade value there. But we can't, dwell on those mistakes from the past. And then the Flyers, he showed up with the Flyers. The Flyers traded him last trade deadline to the Montreal Canadiens for a 7th round pick. So in a year, his value went down from a 3rd round to a 7th rounder. So guess what his value is now? They don't have a 19th round in the NHL draft. That's about where you can get. He had a preseason tryout with the New York Islanders and was cut. When Barry Trotz says you're bad at defense, you're really bad at defense. And then we brought him here because of Stan Bowman, and the second Bowman stepped down from his position, Gustafsson should have been let go. There's no reason to have him here. Sure, he can give you some power play points every once in a while, but it's not worth it. He's a defensive liability. The book is out on him. I think everybody knows this. There's no trade value for him. Let's just cut our ties, waive him, bury him in Rockford. Maybe he can provide some of those precious power play points for the Ice Hogs, who are actually in contention for a playoff spot, or just terminate his contract and say, thanks, it's been a slice, and, have fun in Europe. But there's no trade value for him right now. I don't think if anybody calls you up and offers you anything in return from you, make that trade before that other GM gets locked up in a psychiatric ward.
Does he even have any power play points, Gustafsson?
I don't know. I
don't
don't look it up. I've actually got him on my screen. Let's take a peek here real quick. If he does, it's not many. I mean, he had 60 points in that 2018-19 season, which has obviously been a fluke because he's had nothing close to that since then. He has 2 power play assists on the season. So that's it. 2 power play points. So yeah. So when you're not even good at the whole reason you were brought in here for, what's the point? What are we doing here? But I know what we're doing here at Blackhawks Banter. We're providing you great content every week. And so are all of our shows all across the Hockey Writers Nation network, whatever you want to call it. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Check out all the other great shows we got going on. We got individual team shows, much like us. We've got a great Red Wings show, Sabres, Maple Leafs, Oilers. The Coyotes even have a show. I'm sure they were making fun of us on their latest episode, and rightfully so. We earned that. Check them out. We've got some other great shows, Prospects Corner, Chicks with Sticks, our Rumors show, lots of great stuff. And we got more things coming. We're going to have a special rewind section that we already started with, where we're going to kind of have cool little features. We did the top 5 dirtiest players in the NHL as our first one, and we're going to be trying to do a lot more content, breaking news type stuff. So stay tuned on that YouTube channel. There's a lot of great stuff coming as we look to expand that avenue for us in 2022. But we also still have the Morning Skate newsletter. Go to morningskate.io, throw your email address in the box, get hooked up with that. And if you're a big Discord user, you can join us over there, the Hockey Lounge server. Sign up for that. Find us in the Blackhawks channel, or we've got channels for all of our teams, all of our topics, so you can join the fun. We love hearing from you guys, no matter where you chime in. We appreciate the feedback. So we're going to get back, second half of the show, get through this one. Number 3, topic 3. This is where we like to give out some recognition to players who earned it since we got back, since we last recorded last week. So Brooke, you want to start off with you. You wanted to mention Riley Stillman, who I'm going to be the first to admit is kind of hard to watch sometimes, but you wanted to give him a shout out.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to start out with. So that's funny that you said that. It seems like Stillman is a player that Blackhawk fans either really like or don't like. And I get the notion behind it, because it's not like he's an elite defenseman. He's not brought in to be an elite defenseman, and he was a healthy scratch not too long ago. He has had a couple really bad outings, but I'm going to give him a shout out because against Vegas, he had a very good game. And that's what I kind of like about Stillman. I understand that, like I said, he's not always good, but he does come out with some really big plays sometimes. And that's why I like him. He's kind of gritty, kind of feisty, brings a young energy, kind of dig it. But yeah, against Vegas, he had the game-winning goal. Who would have thought? Yeah, he had some really good hits in that game. Not that I know we talk about a lot. The hits really don't mean anything because you're there to win a game, and hits don't always mean wins. But for him, it seemed to work. And you know what? I kind of like it because it's like a Nicholas Hjalmarsson type of hip check thing that I like that. But anyways, point is, I liked his game against Vegas. He, like I said, he comes out with some big plays sometimes, and I got to dig it because against Vegas, you needed that. It needed to come from anyone. It had just happened to be him. So you know what? Good job. Good job, Riley. It was a good game.
Yeah, hopefully he can build off that. He's got a little bit of that Nikita Zadorov disease where he likes to get caught way out of position, the big hit. So play within yourself, buddy. Gail, you're next. And hey, it's Dylan Strome again.
All right. I know that we are just a week removed from me saying just trade him already and put us all out of our misery. Brooke, you brought him up as somebody that is a trade chip. But I just want to highlight the fact that he had a good week last week. So he spent a couple of games in the doghouse on the 4th line, but at least he was playing his natural center position. Coach King stressed that he was putting him on the 4th line because he wanted him to focus a little bit more on a defensive role and playing some harder minutes, and maybe this could help him in the long run. So King must have liked what he saw because against Vegas, he put him up on that top line for the most part, most of the game. And this is where he earned his primary assist on Riley Stillman's goal. His ice time rose consecutively for each contest against Colorado, 10-22 minutes, 1529 in Arizona and 1727 in Vegas. He took advantage of playing center again. He won 25 of 38 of his faceoffs. So the last 3 games, that's 66% success rate. And considering the fact that we know that Jonathan Toews is really the only other person that can win faceoffs, it's nice to see Strome winning faceoffs. And if he can keep that up on the dot, that's an advantage. They've also been utilizing Strome a little bit more on the power play, the top unit instead of Toews. He's taken advantage of this as well. He has 2 secondary assists on 2 of Alex DeBrickette's goals in these past couple games here. So that's 3 points in 3 games for Strome. So let's face it, you guys, either whether they're showcasing him for a trade, which very well could be, or whether they're finally finding a fit for him in the lineup, kudos to Strome because he had a good week.
Yes, drive up that trade value. Get it up. He's awesome. Give us a great pick for him. You won't regret it. Okay, I swear or not, you didn't accidentally hit the rewind button and you're listening to the second topic all over again. This is not a repeat, but Sean, once again, wanted to give out some kudos to Marc-Andre Fleury.
Listen, someone has to, and I don't mean on this panel. I'm not trying to give the rest of you crap, but as the epitome of this guy being overlooked throughout his nearly 2-decade career on one of the most emotional nights he's going to have throughout his career, let alone this season, gets back into Vegas, has the tribute he has the night he has, stops 30 of 31, gets Chicago a win they should not have gotten, and the guy gets second star of the night. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
So someone needs to give this guy the credit he's finally due, because he continues to just not get it. And people might not understand what I mean by that. Might say he's a fan favorite throughout the league, and he continues to win, and he's won awards, and he's the recent Vezina winner. Right, but he still doesn't get the credit he deserves for all that he has done and all that he continues to do. So if he's not going to get it around the league, then someone here needs to, and we're going to do it on Blackhawks Banter. Marc-Andre Fleury needs to be given the credit he deserves, that he has deserved the whole way through and will continue to until he decides to call it a career. What he did on that night in Vegas was exactly what we thought he was going to do. He stood on his head. He showed them why they made the wrong choice, why he's now happy being where he is, however long he still decides to stay there. And the reality is, as a nice touch to that, Leonard was third star. Fleury proved that night he's the better of the two. I'm happy to see that happen. I'm happy to see him succeed. And I want to keep seeing that as long as I can with him in a Blackhawks uniform. But regardless where he ends up, he deserves credit, and he will continue to get it from me for as long as he keeps playing this game.
He is perfect. That's all there. He is perfect.
Flower.
We can get mad at the guys in the press box in Vegas. They're the ones who vote for the 3 stars.
Ridiculous.
So,
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Ben Hutton gets first star.
Yeah.
Well, it's a home ice call. Maybe he got the first star because he scored a goal on Fleury, who's so good that it's so impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, it's bias. It's bias. It's reason number 3,000 to hate the Vegas Golden Knights. They're the most annoying franchise out there right now, and I can't wait till all those guys get old and bad and they have no prospects and they're in last place. It's only a couple years away. All right, this isn't a Vegas show. This is a Hawks show, and I'm going to talk about a guy that is hopefully going to be here for a long time. He's not here yet, but I wanted to give a little recognition to Lukas Reichel for the big weekend he had with our Rockford Ice Hogs. He was named the AHL Player of the Week. He had 3 goals, 6 points in his 2 games over the weekend. 2 goals, 2 assists Friday night, and an 8-0 beating of the first place Chicago Wolves. The Wolves have only 5 regulation losses all season, and 3 of them have come to Lukas Reichel and the Ice Hogs. They kind of have their number. He had a huge night, and he followed up with another goal and an assist at Milwaukee, which was good to see. It's good to see that he can put those back-to-back, those good nights back-to-back. A lot of times with the young player, they have a huge night, and then they disappear for a game or 2. So having 2 goals or 2 big nights back-to-back is huge. Of course, people see this, they automatically like, get him in Chicago. And I, once again, am going to say, let's pump the brakes on that. I think where he's at right now is the best situation for him. Let's face it, we just talked about this Blackhawks team's not going nowhere. That could be the perfect time to get him in there, but I think it's better for his long-term development to be in Rockford, a team that is currently in a playoff spot and looking pretty good to make the playoffs. The AHL has a weird playoff system this year. 23 teams are making it into their playoffs. It's funky. But 5 of the 7 Central Division teams are going to make it. They're currently 4th. I think it's better for his overall long-term development for him to be playing 20 minutes a night on the top line center on their top power play unit. They're coming to Chicago and being forced to play on a checking line, which isn't his role, with players like Ryan Carpenter and Morgan Entwistle or Mackenzie Entwistle. No disrespect to those guys, but that's not who Lukas Reichel is going to succeed playing with, and playing 9 or 10 minutes a night. It's better for him to be the guy, big fish, small pond for a season, and then get up here. Confidence goes a long way when we're talking about young hockey players. And, he's building his confidence. So keep him down there. Let him be the guy. Let him get some playoff games with the Ice Hogs. And then if things happen end of the year, maybe you can give him a game or two. But Lukas Reichel gets my recognition. I love what I'm seeing out of him so far. And it's encouraging because the Hawks don't have a lot to look forward to, at least not yet. So that's our player recognition. We're going to end our show, as we always do, with the shootout round. Some quick fire questions, some predictions, some fun stuff, end our show on a high note. So we're going to start with round number 1. And we have the Blackhawks have 3 games against Columbus, Montreal, and Anaheim. That is as of recording on Monday evening. Today's practice in Columbus was canceled. Usually that's not a big deal, but with everything going on, it makes you kind of scratch your head. So hopefully the Hawks have 3 games. Columbus, Montreal, Anaheim is on the docket. How many of the 6 possible points do we think the Blackhawks are going to earn? Gail, what do you think?
They're gonna have 6 points. The streak has started.
Our beacon of positivity, Ms. Kowchuk. Sean, what's your prediction?
A little more realistically or skeptical, I guess. 3 out of 6.
Brooke, what do we think?
I'm going to say 6-2 because they always do good against Columbus and against Montreal. And my beanie, I don't know if you guys can see, it says smile. So you know what? Smile for 6 points. It's going to happen.
It's so weird because, yes, they should beat Montreal, who's not doing good, but we just saw them lose to the Coyotes. There's some intriguing matchups in the Columbus game. Anaheim's been hot, but now kind of struggling. I'm going to say 4. I'm going to say 4 points out of 6. So we'll see how that goes. We'll check back next week and see how they did. Speaking of that Tuesday night game against Columbus, it'll be the first time these 2 teams face each other, and 2 guys who were traded for each other, Seth Jones and Adam Boqvist, will be on the ice against each other. Both are having pretty good offensive years. Adam Boqvist has 7 goals on the season. Who do you think are going to have more points, not goals, but points come Tuesday night? Seth Jones or Adam Boqvist? Sean?
They're going to pass the spotlight back and forth and both end the game with 2 points apiece.
All right. Brooke, what do we think?
I still have to think it's Seth Jones because he plays the most.
Gail?
Yeah, Seth Jones, 2 assists, and Boqvist is going to get held off the score sheet.
All right, I like it. I'm going to go with Seth Jones, too, just because he gets a lot more assists than Boqvist does and plays a lot more power play time. So I think Jones gets at least 1 assist. I think Boqvist is going to try a little too hard against his former team and maybe have a costly turnover or 2. We've seen it before. It's not out against the realm of possibilities. Round number 3 of the shootout. This is one we could talk all half hour on. Will the Blackhawks have a new general manager in place by the trade deadline? Brooke, what do you think?
No, I think they're sticking with what they got. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Gail?
Nope, I agree. No.
John, what do you think?
I want them to, but my gut says no. He'll still be there.
Yeah, I'll agree that it's not going to happen because it's the trade deadline's 2.5 months away. They haven't even started a search yet. Unless they're being super, super secret squirrel about it, but I don't think so. It certainly doesn't look like it, which is, to me, is dumb. If Kyle Davidson's your guy, just make him your guy already. Speaking of the trade deadline, we got a few weeks ahead of time and strange things can happen. So if you had to predict who is going to be the first Blackhawk, I mean, technically, Alex Nylander already fits that mold, but he was an Ice Hog, not a Blackhawk.
We don't need to bring that up again. We don't need to keep revisiting that. Stop it.
Well, I didn't want somebody to be, well, actually, Alex Nylander was already traded because that comment guy is already waiting. So who will be the first Blackhawk to be traded after this show? Gail, who do you think?
I think it's going to be Haan or maybe even Dominic Kubalik that goes.
Sean, who's your first Blackhawk that gets moved?
Dylan Strome.
Brooke?
See, I think those are logical choices, but because the Blackhawks are weird, it's probably going to be a weird name like Carpenter or something.
Yeah, I would like to see Strome be the first guy gone, but not for anything personally against him, but we've been saying he's played his last game as a Blackhawk since last summer. So, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. So I'm also going to go with a guy. I actually thought Ryan Carpenter as well. He's the kind of that veteran guy that, a team with some injury COVID issues might pay a small price to get. And our last question, shootout round number 5, also looking ahead to the future. Will Derek King, now pay attention to the wording, be behind the bench after the regular season for the Blackhawks? Sean, what do you think?
No.
Brooke?
Yes, I do.
You think he's going to be the remain as head coach?
Yeah, I don't think they have any incentive to move him. It doesn't seem like they do.
Gail, what do you think?
No, I don't think so.
I think he will be behind the Blackhawks bench, but as an assistant. I don't think he's going to leave the organization.
Ooh.
I don't think he's going to.
Trick question.
Yeah.
So I said, pay attention to the wording. I won't think he's not going to be the head coach. I think I said when they hired him, great guy, I love him, but he's not the long-term solution. He's better when he has a specific role to do as opposed to trying to make all the decisions. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he's done anything to say he may go back to Rockford and be their head coach. He's done a good job down there. But I think he sticks on as an assistant. I think he's earned that at least. He's not done anything to get kicked out of town by any means, but I don't think he's the head coach at the start of next season. So we'll see how that all plays out. That wraps up the shootout round, and that wraps up our Colin Delia / Jimmy Waite episode of Blackhawks Banter. Once again, I'm Greg. Thank you, Gail, Brooke, and Sean for chatting the Hawks on this chilly winter evening. We will be back next week for another brand new episode. Hopefully we'll have some more positive things to talk about. Yes.
6 points.
According to Gail, we're going to be talking about a 4-game winning streak when we get back here next week. So get your DraftKings accounts logged in and ready to bet on that happening. But anywho, we're going to get back together next week after watching these Blackhawks games, and then we'll chat all things Hawks. Once again, thank you everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening to wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate you. Without you guys watching, listening, clicking on all the links on the hockeywriters.com, they wouldn't ask us to do this. So thank you guys all for watching, and we will catch you guys next week. Be safe and go Blackhawks.